Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. Beer stuffs all up in here in the form of Ecliptic Brewing. This is our Ice Giant Cold IPA. Excited to dive into this as I am pretty much all new beers I get into. But I'm a really big fan of Cold IPA. I really am. It's basically just kind of like, it's not an IPL because typically I believe, I could be wrong, it's just a cold fermented yeast IPA, ale yeast IPA. But it is 6.5%. It comes from Ecliptic Brewing. They actually sent it off, and their notes on this are Ice Giant is full of fruity citrus notes and resinous hop aromas, fermented with lager yeast. Okay, I'm wrong. This cold IPA finishes crisp, clean, and dry. That's the whole thing about cold IPA, which I don't really understand, and maybe people out there know a little bit more than me can let me know, is that I've seen a lot of disinformation or misinformation. It's like sometimes it's like, okay, it's like a cold fermented ale yeast, because if it's a lager yeast it's cold fermented, then it's an IPL or not, you know what I mean, Imperial Pale Lager or something along those lines. So I'm not quite sure, you know, where that lies. You guys tell me what's what. We're just going to drink it because that's what we do. Let's use this glass. Label-wise, it's pretty boring. It's what Ecliptic does, but I like black tabs though, so there you go. Okay, we are looking at the beginning of November here. This actually came in a box from Ecliptic yesterday. I believe I got it in the mail. Put the whole thing in there. It's only 12 ounces. We have a date on here. It's just a hair under a month old, and we'll see what's what. So as far as this beer looks, I mean, that looks like a nice soft little hazy pale. You know, nothing too turbid, nothing too thick. Sure, you know, has a little bit more kind of darkness to it when you typically come to expect from regular hazy IPA. But as far as an IPL, a hazy lager, it kind of looks a bit on point. Pinky finger, frothy, creamy wet head. Good nose. That smells really, really fruity, really, really peachy, really, really stone fruity. Yeah. Like even like berries and fruit, very, very aggressively vibrant on a fruit tip that leans stone and berry that I usually don't get. I mean, it's very much a hop butchery thing. They tend to have their beers lean very heavily into that berry thing, but the combination of that stone fruit and berry here is very, very tantalizing. Not like a big precursor to anything resinous, like they said in a can, or bittering or anything like that, but it has this nice fruitiness to it. Really comes off as this very vibrant, again, peachy berry kind of IPA. Soft little sweet maltiness, nothing too crazy. Dive in, y'all. Cheers. Man, that is delicious. And that resinous thing they talk about in the can, absolutely 100% there. This is by far and away the most peachy berry combination I believe I've ever had in any hop forward beer. And it does have this pretty aggressive West Coast level of zippy, resinous bittering. It really rides the roof of your mouth. And the coolest part about it is it does come off as like an IPL. It does come off because it has this, well, it does have a texture to it, a little satiny finish, a little softness to the initial mouthfeel. It finishes super hyper clean and very, very snappy, so you're getting the best of both worlds there. This is like, man, this is really good. This is very, very heavily steeped in old school bittering, you know, and old school maltiness. The malt bill here is also in play. While it might be a third player here because how snappy, a fourth player for how snappy the yeast makes this beer come off, for how bittering resinous this comes off, while at the same time throwing that super cool combination of that peachy blueberry kind of combination. This malt here is nice. It's kind of floating that somewhere between, like, it's not as sweet as Crystal Malt, but it's not as rich as Amaris, or it's floating somewhere in there, but it's definitely there. And I think it's almost absolutely 100% needed for a beer like this. Like if you go all brewer sugars in here, you drop out all maltiness. I think that bittering in combination with that snappiness of the beer, in combination with that big berry peachy thing, I just don't think it plays nearly as well, at least for me, because it just comes off as this super cool like almost like violent level of each one of those components without being too aggressive. You know, and it's such a fine line between that, where it's explosive but not over the top to the point where it's kind of wear you out. I think I can drink a couple cans of these in succession. Drinks way above its weight class at 6.5%, and honestly, just comes off as probably one of the best, if not more, one of the better, if not one of the best hop forward beers I've had all year. Straight up, no joke. This is absolutely delicious. I dig the crap out of this beer, and I would love to get this in sixers. 12-ounce can, perfect portion size. Love it. Love this beer. It's all the things that made old school great with all the cool things that new school brings in a very, very well done package. One of the best Ecliptic beers I've had, and up there. Mount Rushmore status across the board. From the stuff that they sent me, and honestly, as of late, I dig on my traditional hazies and how they play, and that softness, richness. This is just bringing a lot to the table that a lot of those beers don't. And yeah, I dig it. I love it. Want some more of it. So there you go. I don't know what else to say other than, yeah, big fan, Mount Rushmore status. And let's talk about it. What's Ecliptic's deal with you? Have you had a bunch of their beers? Have you been to the brewery? Have you had this? I really want to know if you've had this beer. If you've had this beer, give me your experience, especially this batch. If they've done it previously, I'd like to hear about that also. But this batch, how did it move you and where did it sit with you? All that stuff down there. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as much as I did. Yeah, hopefully you're enjoying a nice little cold IPA right now. Hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.